Great. I think we can begin now. So this is the AI General Assembly R&D Committee Session 1 for the Indian Conference on AI and Law 2023. We are now in session. We have the committee chair, Pavithra, SKDR, and we have the committee co-chair in this session case, Samridhi Jain. Let's have quick introductions of all the specialists and founders of legal tech ventures who actually, decided to participate today. We are glad to have Mr. Suhas Baliga from TipsyTom. We are glad to have Saurabh from Samta Law. We are glad to have Hans from SpeedLegal. We are glad to have Chitraki from WebNyay. And it's a pleasure to have all of you. Let's start with quick introductions of each of you, your background per se, and then I think in a particular order we may, begin. I think on preference we will begin with Hans as per his request, and then I think we can move ahead with Suhas and Saurabh and then Chitraki. I think in that order we can go ahead. So let's start with quick introductions. Hans, would you like to introduce yourself, your background per se, what has inspired you to work on SpeedLegal per se?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you, Abhivarat. Sorry if I don't say that correctly. So my background is how do you say it correctly?
No, I think that makes sense. You can go on. It makes sense.
Sorry for that. Yeah. So yeah, I spent long hours and years in contracts on the financial side, working at big companies such as Amazon in Luxembourg, and working at my family business, which is tax and legal in Italy. And so I decided to improve the process for my parents, but also for other bigger companies. My friends were working at other companies, and I saw similar pain points, specifically with the legal due diligence. And we started to work with the VBA at the beginning on Excel, and then we moved to ML. And SpeedLegal was born in San Francisco a couple of years ago. And so, yeah, that's my background. Thank you.
Great. Suhas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Good to be with you. I'm a corporate lawyer. I started in 2008. I worked with a couple of large law firms in India for 4 years, after which I started my own law firm in 2012, focusing on venture capital and founder representations in VC and PE, which turned into a boutique firm with 6 to 7 lawyers, and I ran this till 2019-20. Around 2020 is when we started working on the current venture, which is focused on automating drafting and review work. It began as automating drafting and review work for corporate law use cases, but it has moved beyond that. Thank you.
All right, great. Chitraki, would you like to introduce yourself? About WebNyay. I think we know a lot, but it would be great if you could explore more about how WebNyay has been growing.
Yeah. So I am also a lawyer by background, but I only practiced for a year. Practiced as in I worked for a law firm for a year, but then I decided to shift to legal tech and wanted to build products that would help lawyers. And that was when I joined the team, the WebNyay team. So we have been working on our platform for the past 3 years to make lawyers work easier through our online dispute resolution. And it's been a good journey so far. Yeah.
Amazing. We are glad to know that. Saurabh, your work has fascinated me a lot. I actually looked through your updates on LinkedIn and they're great. We'd really like to know about your work at Samta Law, Jugalbandi and everything, maybe in a nutshell. And I think then, I think you can take this forward and I think then we can start. So, Saurabh, please.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Saurabh, and unlike all of you, I'm not a lawyer. I have had no legal background, but for past 2.5 years, I was leading an open source initiative called WebNyay, where we were looking at how do you build open source foundational models. And when I say foundational models, I don't necessarily mean just large language models, but specialized models for like named entity recognition, rhetorical roles, etc. Building it in open source so that a lot more entrepreneurs can find it easier to build products in this particular space. And that's been the work for past 2 years. This year I took a call because the generative AI almost created like a whole different scale of opportunities this year, and that's why I took a call of like starting my own venture. So I know some of you have been building your products for past 3 years. I'm 3 months into my journey, and what we are doing is we are looking at horizontal solutions in legal. We believe like a lot of softwares are built for like vertical use cases. However, like technology is like horizontally scalable and globally contextually relevant, and that's our product approach to doing some stuff. And yeah, I'll probably show you some things that we have been up to in the demonstration. Glad to be here.
That's amazing. Pavithra, I think you can now take it ahead. Same with Samridhi. I think you can invite our speakers, and I think you can steer it. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Really glad to be here. I think we have all thought about legal tech solutions for a longest time. This space has been, of a guild of sorts. It's lawyers who know how it works, and then there are judges. But there are so many nuances to drafting a contract, reviewing the contracts, and alternate dispute resolution. So each of you have been thinking about it from one aspect of or the other, trying to look at it from outside the system than inside the system. So really excited to hear what each of you have to say. Looking forward to it. We can probably start with Hans, then Suhas, then Chitraki, and then Saurabh. So how do you, can we do, should we do Q&A at the end, or should we do one after the other?
Right. So my recommendation is that as they demonstrate the use cases, we can keep it conversational, and then I think in each and every case, you can ask them some questions. If there are any common questions, yes, we can cover them in the end. But any specifics could be addressed once, at least for 5 to 10 minutes. They explain, they show the demo. Then I think we can start something so as it becomes more conversation and reasonable.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. Shall I share my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you for having us today. Let me know if you see my screen properly and everything. I'm Hans Paul, the CEO and co-founder of SpeedLegal, calling you from San Francisco. Thank you for having me a bit earlier today. I mean, in your day, in my night. So we are a SaaS company based in San Francisco with a mission to help everyone, and specifically busy professionals, to understand contract risks and contract terms in a few minutes instead of hours. I told you a bit about my background is the financial side of contracts, and I'm a tech person and a business person, not exactly a JD, but my team is made of lawyers and developers. And we are backed by partners at big law firms such as Auric, DLA Piper, Mayer & Brown, and a couple of others. And yeah, so what we have built is a platform, a SaaS platform that helps, it's basically an AI contract assistant that empowers lawyers and non-lawyers in terms of managing contract risks and closing deals much faster. So what we usually say is that we don't provide legal advice, we provide statistical inference, just to make sure that we don't go beyond our limits. And the three main problems that we are seeing when so we went through 3 phases of life of this company. At the beginning, we were focusing on big law firms. So this company started actually a couple of years ago. So at that time, it was not very popular as it is now, thanks to LLMs, right? So we were, trying to convince big law firms to use a software like SpeedLegal. There were a couple of issues there, like conflict of interest. As you may know, in US, there is a lot of billable hour, and also a bit of sales. The sales cycles tend to be longer, especially in law firms. So we decided to pivot in a couple to other sectors, real estate, and the latest pivot has been into in-house legal and business teams within small, medium businesses between 50 and 300 employees, without a legal team or with a small legal team. So the problem that we see, it's time, as you may know, with contracts is time, money, and knowledge. Sometimes being a busy VP of finance or CFO of a scale-up, I don't have the time to read contracts line by line. And well, I can ask for help, but help is very expensive, right? We know in the US it's between 500 to $1,500 per hour. For a small medium business, it goes between 13,000 to 300,000 per year in legal fees. And sometimes we just, sign contracts without really analyzing them because we want to close the deal and move fast, which is not the best decision because we may accept risks that may jeopardize the success of our company. So the reason why using a software like SpeedLegal that we've seen with a couple of use cases here, case studies that we've built with a couple of our customers, is improving the mitigating risk. So improving the accuracy on finding red flags within contracts and reminders. So we have seen that a company missed about 12 reminders and 6 red flags in the past 6 months. With SpeedLegal, that number went to 0. The second part is speed, as you may understand. We're helping with reviewing contracts. So on average, our users move three times faster. I will show you how in a second. And time is money, therefore the ROI on the investment tends to be interesting. This is a study that we have found, and some of you may know it's the benchmarking report from the legal departments, Global Legal Department Association. As you can see, there is a lot of contracts that are being supported by each attorney in the company, and each attorney is supporting several employees, and that's not sustainable in the long term, and therefore there is an opportunity for improvement on this specific process. If you have any question, I can actually stop, and otherwise I will show you a bit more how it works. So right now we are focusing on buy side and sell side contracts, such as purchases, MSAs, DPAs, a bit of employment, partnership. We're not doing much financing yet. And the solution is made of 3 steps. At SpeedLegal, we believe that understanding contracts should be as easy as reading the nutrition facts on the back of our food, and we call it contract nutrition label. The second part is understanding the risks and how to push back on specific provisions, and we call it red flag table. We compare your contract with the market standard or with your playbook, in case the company has a playbook. And the first step is understanding how to get out of the contract and when to get out of the contract. So the way it works is pretty straightforward. You upload a contract into the platform. Once the report is ready in a couple of minutes, you will see the total risk and the values that are interesting for that specific contract. And the cool part is the redlining. So in the latest version of the app, we have been focusing on redlining the contract. Some of the features like NER summaries, we have left it aside for now. It's on the old platform and we'll put it back very soon, but this is the cool part. So basically compared to the market standard that you can amend and change, we have found 13 red flags, 13 missing criteria, and 9 green flags. So it's pretty straightforward. It looks like Grammarly and works like Grammarly. You see the piece of text that is not complying with the standard. This is, for example, a 2 year instead of 3 years, and we're going to add the specific text. You can accept, and automatically it gets accepted, and the risk is going to decrease. The same I can do with other parts of the contract. We have found also purple things, which are things that we have not seen in the contracts. For example, force majeure is not there, compliance with data protection. So you can add those things at the bottom of the contract, and then when you export, you can position that in the location that you think is more relevant. There are also questions that you can ask to the contract, like what's the duration of the agreement, how much do I have to fix the breach, and these are, we are trying to avoid hallucinations by finding exact specific text within the contract without making up new text. And yeah, so this is our contract nutrition label part. I will stop maybe here for now if you have more questions. And yeah, so this is pretty much what we are working on. yeah, I'm happy to answer any question that you may have.
Yes, Pavithra, go on.
Yeah, can I? Okay, I have a lot of questions, but what have you fed into it? For instance, if it's at 3 years as opposed to 2 years, right? So what is the base that goes into it as market standard or ideal contract terms?
Yeah, very good question. So the way we create the standard is using three types of data: the public data from SEC, private databases, and user documents. And then we have an expert committee that checks the standard and basically vets the result of the data. So we have data plus human to create the standards. The more data, the better we can cluster data in jurisdictions. That right now we have a major standard for US and one for Europe. The user can also modify their own contract, their standard, by simply, changing the values. For example, for employment agreement, I can go here and change the, the compensation, the benefits, the non-competition covenants, or the choice of law based on my preferences.
Sorry, one more follow-up question. At what stage do your clients use this? Is it after they've executed a contract to understand a risk, or before they've executed contract to understand the risk? Or are you giving it to like law firms to, first of all, create their contract itself?
Yeah, very good question, Pavithra. So right now, our focus are boutique law firms or non-lawyers within the company, or one person army, like one GC, two people, small legal teams. They're using this to assess contracts coming from outside, so a contract that are not my standard, or if it's my standard but it's highly negotiated, it's redlined, then I can use it, upload on SpeedLegal to get a report and analyze the red flags of the red lines, and then push and create new red lines to write back to them. So you can see SpeedLegal becoming an AI contract negotiator. Like now that AI agents are more popular, basically after we are done with this line of testing, we will be able to connect these APIs to your email, and then we can do also the back and forth via email, attaching the document and redlining the document, as you can see here, and then basically exporting the document into, by clicking on this export button. So this is what we envision to be the flow. You can also understand what are the business consequences of accepting this amendment or not, by clicking on the I button. That's something we have in staging, and we will be pushing soon in production. You can create also more variation of the text that I showed you here. Yeah, very good question. I hope I answered your question on the use case, but yeah. So basically, we don't draft yet. We are, we are creating a decoder, and then it's on the roadmap to create an encoder. It's pretty easy once you have a good decoder to revert the process and to create an encoder. So we're trying to have the best decoder before switching to having an encoder. Yeah.
And do they give you a redacted contract, or does whatever your client go back into your system to train your system?
Sorry, what's the question?
No, first is that do the clients give you redacted contracts, or do you redact the contract? Because are you reusing their contracts to feed as data into your system itself?
Yeah. So in terms of data privacy and policies, for data that we use to give, let's say, to GPT-4, we have a DPA with them. We remove the sensitive information, and yes, so our TNC state that the user agreed to that we use their data to enhance our AI, unless they opt out. So for users that opt out, we don't use it. But if they don't opt out, we use it. Yeah.
Good. I'm done.
Thank you.
Anybody else has any other question?
Yeah, I think there's a question in chat. I could read it out. So it says, what kind of strategies have worked for reaching out to small businesses and teams that require this? Is it advertising that is primary, or is it high touch B2B?
Yeah, very good question. And nice to see you, Samridhi. I think we saw each other some time ago, and nice to see you again. But yeah, so the way it works right now, it's mostly SEO and word of mouth. That's how people have found us so far. We have decent positioning because we have lots of blogs and a podcast, and also we have a decent name. SpeedLegal is quite good in terms of SEO. But the next step for us is doing more outreach and also integrating with other platforms and tools that we use every day, such as emails or OpenAI Marketplace. Yeah, hope I answer your question. So it's not super structured the way we reach out. It's more like SEO and integrations right now.
Hi, Hans. This is Aarti from WebNyay. I have a question regarding the final version of the document. I understand that there are a lot of edits made, and after all the automation is done, is it actually reviewed by any legal team before it is actually becomes a binding document? Is there a manual process to validate the edits, or is it done automatically?
Yeah, very good question, Arki. So we used to do it in the last 2 years in the previous platform that I showed you. In the new platform, we are actually removing the human in the loop, and so this platform, yeah, we used to have a legal expert. Now we are trying. I mean, we have learned that users really want to have results right away. So now we have removed the human in the loop. Accuracy has increased, and we are giving the human in the loop as an additional premium service if they still want to have a human in the loop. Yeah, good question.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
All right. If there are no further questions, I think we can go ahead with Chitraki. I think.
Thank you, guys. I'll be around for the next hour. So thanks so much.
Yes, there are some general questions which we'd like to ask to all of you together. So we'll take that up at the end.
So I should go next, or is it Suhas?
Yes, Suhas, anybody?
Yes. Okay, I'll go next and wind up soon. So, hi everyone. It's great to speak after Hans because in 2020 when we started building, we were looking. In fact, we started building something like what Hans built, and since then we have had many pivots. And I'll quickly run through them because it's good to understand where we are coming from. When we started out, given my background as corporate lawyer, corporate law entrepreneur, the problem statement that I was solving for when I started out, and it is broadly the same, but things have changed a bit, was how do you accelerate review? Because review takes up a lot of time. Drafting does take up time, but review takes up a lot of time. And review is also very high end and complex in the sense that there are decision makers who need to review documents. Decision makers often do not have to draft, but do have to review. And review time is, at the top of the, value scale. When we started in 2020, we had several challenges in building something like this. The technology since then has moved on quite a bit. Our challenges had to do with also, getting the right tech expertise into this. And what we learned along the way and which we did is build a team which is completely clued into the tech. So whether they're lawyers or non-lawyers, including myself, we're all we are all involved in building the tech. There are no business people or only legal people in our team. And these are lessons that we learned in that first iteration. We did a first prototype in 2021, which was aimed at financial institutions, banks, PE funds who want to sort of create a dashboard of contract, essential review terms. Um, we which had its own challenges, and what that has now evolved into, and starting from around 8 months ago, is our current product, which is very different from what we initially thought we were solving, or the direction in which we thought we would focus on review. Uh, Now, what we have, TipsyTom.com, which I'll show you, is focused on the drafting and review problems in a different way than we initially contemplated. Uh, in essence, what we are now doing is ensuring that we have uh, time which is saved from a drafting and review perspective. And that is, our vision and our goal is very clear: minimize input, maximize output. So if you have to draft a complex agreement, then you spend very little time putting in details. If you have to review a complex agreement, you spend very little time asking questions, and you get highly accurate outputs, and highly, both legally, commercially sound and accurate outputs. Our current version is a sort of version 3 demonstration of what we had built as of 2 months ago. Since then, things have moved on very quickly. We have had a lot of sort of inbound interest to undertake end-to-end automation. So, for example, if your anything, your law firm, your big four, your consulting organization, your small office has a particular kind of draft that needs to be generated, uh, we basically make it very, very easy to generate that with minimal input. Asking a few questions here and there, and then it has to be in the format that you expect. It has to have your your whatever concerns you, whatever your templates are. It should respect that. It should ask the questions that matter to you. So things are becoming very exciting now. Not enough of it is visible on the app, but it will be in a few days, because what we are doing now is a combination of two things. One is we have a lot of inbound B2B interest in terms of how in terms of end-to-end automating for specific use cases within organizations, or which is exclusive to organizations. So that is one aspect of our business which we are trying to run away from and focus on the B2C, because we have had a very exciting time with this B2C interface that we have, which is TipsyTom.com. The story is, when we started it, we called it TipsyTom because the drafts were of a certain slightly drunk lawyer kind of drafts being generated. So version 1, we called it TipsyTom because we felt it was like, it was a lawyer drafting, but a drunk lawyer drafting. So we didn't want to mislead people. But somehow the name has stuck. Now we have very serious people who are doing serious business with us, sort of, calling it Tipsy Tom and saying, can you do this and can you do that? So we are stuck with the name, but it's not so tipsy anymore. Um, and the other thing that is also very exciting for us is we are in a, I would say we are one of the few teams which has a lot of legal experience, and which is deeply clued into the tech. So, we have like 40 years of legal experience in the team. We have 15 years of tech experience, and all the 40 years of legal experience also have a very good understanding of tech. Can read the code, can write the code, can understand the models, figure out how to build guardrails. So it's in that way we're unique. So when we sort of talk to a customer, they know that we know how this contract works. They don't need any experts. We don't need any experts. So in our next release, we are putting out some which we haven't done focused on India. So till now we have just done some global stuff on our app, which is good for anybody. So what we are doing now is we are releasing, and in a few days we are releasing new scripters. We call them scripters. A scripter is an automation tool. for a particular kind of a draft. So your law firm, for example, can have a shareholders agreement scripter or a legal notice scripter. The legal notice scripter is something that you will see on our app. Anybody can use it. It generates a legal notice, which is in fairly good shape with minimal inputs, and every input is optional. So now, for example, the very India specific scripters will be things such as very specific applications in courts or even petitions in courts, which are fairly complex to draft, where we are just making it very minimal effort. So you spend 5 minutes, you put in a few words here and there, and then it's going to give you a petition, and that petition is going to be in the format that Indian courts like to see. It's going to be sort of it's going to have the language that you want to see, and it's going to have the legal concepts that you want to see. It's going to give you a fair amount of ability to also modify things and change things if for if it's special to you. Where we feel the knowledge base should be or can be modified by users, we give them the option. So very interesting times. In fact, there are so many drafts that you can sort of build end-to-end automation for now with the tech available. We are now reaching out to we are working with different kinds of experts to bring in more scripters that everybody can use. We have customers who are purchasing scripters from us, which is for their internal use. So if you're say a big four firm and you want to create a certain kind of a report, then you can just sort of put in minimal things and it'll generate the the report for you. It can be a due diligence report. It can be a policy that you draft. And the drafting use cases are also far beyond legal. What we see, like we started with okay, these are legal drafting use cases, and then we have many non-legal drafting use cases that are coming our way, which in finance and in tax. And connected areas where the knowledge base is important, where you need to have some expertise to draft. There are concepts that need to be respected. There is some localization or format or language specific requirements. So that is what we do. Our current version, you can it's free to check out on TipsyTom.com. You can run through all the scripters which we have out there. In the next 10 days, you will see a completely new version, new in design. It will have India specific and litigation specific scripters. We will probably be releasing some of them free, so that there is so that lawyers all around the country can use it. And this is love for lawyers in India. And there are a lot of, for example, there are a lot of criminal lawyers in India. There are a lot of family lawyers in India, and this is a B2C market. It's not so much a B2B market. So we are very excited about that. And yeah, so that is what we are doing. Um, and yeah, I'll leave it open to questions. And I don't want to show anything, because I don't want to kill our next weeks. So
I have a question. So I wanted to know about the review bit that you mentioned about, because as a experience as a lawyer, I think review was one of those things which was
yes.
really time consuming. So what about that? How is automation happening in terms of review? Certain drafts like legal notices or other things that we can obviously have a format and generate certain drafts. But in terms of review, how are you going about how it like?
That's a very good question. And it is actually I think review is as or more important than drafting. What we are doing now is, and given where technology is and where it's going, we have started an incremental approach. And the first sort of step in that incremental approach, you will see in what we call the power editor. I'll just share that. I'll show you the screen. So the power editor for me is the first step towards this journey of getting better at reviewing documents. One of the things that I think anybody who is in the review market sort of realizes is formats are complicated to work with. So uploading a document and then giving something back And typically review also includes editing. It's not from a workflow perspective. If you see how lawyers or how tax consultants work, or even finance professionals, when you're working on a document, review is both. It is editing as well as commenting, and then modifying and agreeing to changes. So a lot of review products are therefore built as Word plugins, because Microsoft Word docx format is what you integrate with. In fact, in the review problem statements, this is something that we were always challenged with, because if you see in review, what people do is they take one of two routes. One is they go the Microsoft plugin route, or they have to build their own editors, like what SpeedLegal showed us. And when you build your own editor, also there are complications in terms of how much can go into the document, in what format it comes out, whether the changes show in track. All these things are also technological challenges that you need to overcome. And we somehow have not been very happy with the you can say it's our bias, but we have not been very happy with going down the plugin route. We would prefer something like what I think SpeedLegal, Hans can correct me, has not gone into a Word plugin route. They're building it on their own platform. So the first sort of kind of a you can see on the screen is this power editor is like it's what it does is, from a text perspective, it does the job. You can do any kind of review using our power editor as long as you're working with text. The only limitation in our sort of power editor, and I hope this is logged in, the only sort of limitation in our power editor is that you cannot work with your formats. You need to copy paste your text and it'll do whatever you want done with minimal effort. So the next stage will be to make something like this work. You see, you ask for anything here, it will happen here. You say, okay, can you tell me whether there is something here? It will tell you. So this is sort of built that way. And we don't see this editing or review problem as complicated now from a tech perspective in terms of doing the actual job. But in terms of working with the formats, being scalable across different docx PDFs, doing the job with the format that you upload, we aren't there on the tech. We don't know anybody else also who is there on this tech. So unless they're doing a Word plugin, and we don't know anybody who has a Word plugin who gets our accuracy when working with text. So that is the sort of thing we are straddling. So in future releases, we want to get to where what SpeedLegal is trying to do, which is saying that okay, if you have a particular format, we will do the review really nicely. Here's the way that you can upload, and then you can sort of do what you want. And when you're working with say R scripters, then review of R scripters generated documents becomes that much easier. So then we work within our ecosystem rather than try to tackle a very complicated ecosystem of PDFs, docx's, different workflows. So review is more of a workflow challenge than a tech challenge. Tech, when I mean tech, I mean like foundational tech, fundamental tech. Does that answer the question? I don't know. So
Yeah, it does. I get a fair idea. Thank you.
So Suhas, I had a question. So when you said B2C as opposed to B2B, is it that you are telling litigants they don't have to go through a lawyer, or are you working with lawyers?
We work only with professionals. Our B2C is only for professionals. It's designed only for professionals. I don't think we don't even want to come across as selling this directly to customers. And also for regulatory reasons, because we don't want to be seen as somebody who's offering any legal advice. We want to be very clear, this is for businesses, this is for professionals. You can be the smallest professional in the world, but you have to be a professional to use this. Even though, to be honest with you, it does so well, it could be anybody who's using it. I don't see it as a major risk in that sense, but we don't want to be selling in that way. I don't think it makes sense also. Of course, a lot of our users are, founders who come and want to generate an NDA, founders who want to generate offer letter. We do have those customers, but that's not who we want to sell to now, because what we have is we feel is very valuable. Like it's not for people who just want any template. It's for people who have complex, use cases where there is value to be. that's where there is value to be made. Like, we know that it takes 4 hours to draft a certain kind of a petition, and let's reduce that to 15 minutes and do a good job, and make our money rather than focus on who is the, it's not our market.
Okay. And what type of inputs do you take from them?
So it's
What? Yeah, I can understand if it's a transactional document, okay, SSA, SHA, employment agreement, the amount of information that has to go in is limited as such, as opposed to a court filing, for instance. Are you catering to like a plaint or a written statement, things like that?
So to give you an example, if you want interim relief in an Indian court, there are certain things that you need to establish in your application, which we know that you have to establish that it is a prima facie case. You have to establish that there is balance of convenience issue. You have to show through your facts that there is a issue in terms of both of these things, and then your prayers need to reflect certain things very clearly. There is a certain way that you need to build your facts. There's a certain way you need to build your prayers, and there's a certain way you need to build your arguments. If you are aware of all of this, then you know that where the touch point is that the professional has. The professional's touch points are very clear. Hey, you want to show prima facie. Hey, do you want to say this? Do you want to say this? Do you want to say this? You want to show balance of convenience. Do you want to say this? You want to build facts. Okay, these are the kind of facts you need to build. So 1, 2, 3. And even if you don't answer these questions, we'll build something for you that you can edit, because we know that this is how it should look like. We know that in a bail application, you have to show your character. We will talk about your good character. Now, if you want to add to your good character, okay, you can add in this way or add in that. And language models make this very powerful, because the amount of work is massively reduced, because language models take care of a lot of things. It's, for example, very simple thing like gender. If it's a female petitioner, previously you had to go in your template, make changes in 10,000 places, make he, she, and she, he. In some there would be more respondents, in some there would be less respondents. Sometimes there would be a single respondent. So no matter what template you have, no matter what concepts are reflected in that template, you would have to work through the draft. So you don't need to work through the draft now. You can just sort of focus on the touch points. Okay, there's one respondent, this is her name, and you're done. Like, it's going to happen. So it's very exciting that way in terms of how much work you're reducing by asking the right questions. See, the reason why I feel in this kind of a use case, it's useful to have legal talent that understands the tech, is because you don't know what questions to ask otherwise. So you have to know what questions to ask. Even in our legal notice, we're asking those questions. You can see it on our, or any agreement that you see. Now, even in our previous version, we thought about, okay, these are the questions to ask, keep everything optional. In our previous version, we feel that we asked too many questions. In each version, the questions are going to reduce. So essentially, it's going to be like, less and less questions, less and less things to do, and you get what you need. So that is the idea.
No, I think it's a great positioning, both in terms of what Hans is doing and you are doing, that we are not really bypassing the need for a lawyer, but this is to aid them and reduce their time so that they can focus more on the, actually applying the legal mind to things. Okay. Any other questions that anybody has?
I think there's again one in the chat by Kailash. So I'm just going to read it out. Are there any clauses in the contract between your platform and your customers to deal in case the customer raises any issues on the accuracy of the platform in the future? So, for example, if the contract enters into dispute in the future and the customer alleges any error, flaw, or issue from the or platform, if the customer alleges flaws in the suggestions given by the draft or power editor of your platform. So basically, if there's like how you would deal with any issues that are being flagged inside the platform.
One thing that we have done and we are going to do, and in our redesign also we are very careful about, is saying that you have to read every line that is generated. We are not responsible. Even if it is, we know that it is 100% accurate, 99% accurate. We are not going to take responsibility. Professionals have to read what they are sending out. That's why we called it TipsyTom. We started with this idea that you have to read everything that comes out. And we are never going to drop this idea. Even when we are at 100%, we won't drop this. We'll say read every word. Then why do you exist? Like, what are you in between for as a professional? So we are going to, and that messaging is going to be, it will have to be very important. If our messaging is not clear, then I will make it. We have to ensure that. It's nothing to do with the accuracy. To be honest, it is very accurate. Like the new scripters that you'll see, you will not go wrong. Your bail application or your Section 9 application or your caveat petition or whatever it is not going to go wrong. But we are still going to say you read everyone.
Right.
Yeah. One last question that I had. Sorry, I'm hogging this. But have you collected some feedback or data on the process bit, how much you're able to reduce this time in terms of actuals?
We are generating everything in 5 minutes, right? So in our next version, whatever litigation scripters you see are 5 minutes of work. 5 minutes of work. And we're talking about 5-6 page drafts.
Got it.
Now, if 5 to 6 page draft is 5 minutes of work, or 10-page draft is 5 minutes of work, I think we are reducing. So now we are arguing about whether it is 10 or 5 or 15. That's the argument we're having. In our team, people are saying, no, it can go up to 15 if you really need to think. Like the person needs to think about.
Yeah, so I actually had another question. So when it comes to like the accuracy bit that you're saying that we're really strong on accuracy. So how do you ensure that the accuracy is, and of course the professional is going to read it at the end. So what is like the input, the data that really goes into, say, for example, training training to generate a legal notice. So how is that process playing out?
So that is what we do essentially. What we do is we build all these articles. So what is generated is going to be legible. It is going to be within the framework of what is being drafted. It is going to cover the main subject areas, and that is going to be modified by your instructions. So there is not much scope for this thing going all over the place. There's only limited scope, and that limited scope is what? That is based on your instructions. So if you say I'm not a man of good character, that is going to modify your whatever bail application, and that's not going to look good. That's how this goes wrong for you if you are extremely stupid, which is why you have to read everything you submit and take responsibility for it, because at the end of the day the facts are given by you, and facts modify the base of the draft. So yeah, so which is why it's I don't want to get into I don't want to say it that the only way this will go wrong is the user is wrong in the head, but that's the way that and that can happen in anywhere. There's no software that can fix stupidity, but from our side it's going to be clear.
Right, thank you.
Okay. I don't think there are any more questions. Okay. So, okay, both Hans and Suhas gave us a flavor on, the back office work that lawyers do and how it can be made more efficient. So, Chitraki will probably tell there are instances in the courtroom also where lawyers' time really, really get wasted. So, there are a lot of ODR alternative mechanisms right now that are seeking to change this. So, Chitraki, floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to also introduce everyone to Aarti. Aarti is from our tech team at WebNyay. So she's with us. I'll move ahead with the demonstration, but before that, I just want to talk about the problem that WebNyay has been trying to solve, or even a brief background about how this came up, right? So in law school, I heard something like lawyers are expensive, but justice is cheap. So I think it all stems out from that and our experiences with Indian courts. We all know the situation. Lawyers themselves don't want to go to courts, right? So essentially, that's exactly the problem that WebNyay has been trying to solve for the past 3 years, trying to build a mechanism in which trying to build a mechanism and sort of an end-to-end solution, not just a platform to resolve disputes online or help individuals and businesses to resolve disputes without going to courts online, but also make a consolidated platform where you can increase efficiency and reduce time along with resolving disputes. And I also, at this point, we truly believe that in the future, probably every lawyer would need a AI companion, right? To even decide cases or on a day-to-day work flow, just to increase efficiency and again reduce time, like do more work with more efficiency, better work, but at the least amount of time possible. So that's the core idea behind what we are trying to do. So with saying this, the first platform that I would like to showcase is called the document management system. It's the WebNyay Docs. So for that, I would share my screen and show a video. So just to give you a brief background about the platform, it's basically something that we have built for lawyers. In heavy cases, we have so many documents, right? And it becomes at the end of the day very impossible by the end of the particular case to keep track of hundreds, thousands documents. So we have created a platform where everyone, the whole legal team, can collaborate and go through the documents together, paginate OCR within minutes, not like spend hours trying to, hyperlink documents and all of that. So it's a consolidated platform. The video will be able to, put more light into what I'm saying. So just allow me to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's your desktop.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Introducing Docs by WebNyay, the AI-powered
The audio is also available. Yeah, okay.
document management solution built for lawyers. With Docs, you can easily create custom workspaces to organize documents for each case or project. It lets you seamlessly import folders from cloud storage like Google Drive or Dropbox with just a click. You can paginate hundreds of documents simultaneously in seconds. And make scanned or image PDFs text searchable by OCRing them in batches on the cloud. OCR up to 50 files in 120 seconds. Create hyperlinked indexes and connect to the right document or page with one click. Use hyperlinks seamlessly to connect related documents, statutes, case law, and more. Instantly jump to the exact page you need every time. Or use our intelligent semantic search to find what you're looking for across all documents. Collaborate faster with the team, add comments, notes and hyperlinks in the PDF editor. Quickly generate bookmarked and indexed files for submissions. Throughout all this, your data remains fully secure, protected and confidential through state-of-the-art encryption, access controls and data isolation. Upgrade to Docs and experience the hassle-free future of legal document management. Visit docs.webnyay.ai today or email us at hello@webnyay.ai for a product demo.
Yeah, so this was the first platform. The second platform is a generative AI platform. I'll definitely take questions at the end of it with both the platforms, relating to both the platforms, but I'll take the liberty to move on to the next platform. So the next platform, like I mentioned, it's a generative AI platform where we're trying to build a sort of a system where we upload documents and we ask questions. So with respect to uploading documents, how we are different is that we can upload up to 100 documents in one go. With this regard, in the tech bit, we have worked on context window for this. And moving on, the second thing that I would want to mention here, that we have implemented sophisticated guardrail system wherein the answers to your questions actually in the platform are limited to your document set, the documents that you upload the answers you or the questions you ask, the answers will be limited to the document set that you have uploaded. We have also reduced hallucinations to some extent as well. And with this particular platform, we have already moved into beta testing. We are in the beta testing phase, and from what we know from our users, we are achieving 75% to 80% of accuracy that we see. So that's the platform that I would like to showcase now. For that, I would not play a video and would just take you through. I'll just type out a few questions and show you the results. I'll again share my screen. Yeah. So this is essentially the platform. As you can see, I've already uploaded a few documents here. So here you can upload as many documents as you want. On the basis of this, I'll go ahead and just ask the first question. Oops. Should give it another try. Yeah. Just move ahead with something like, what is the significance of the Indra or the case? Yeah, or you can even ask something like, summarize the and just with maybe something like, any questions that you all want to ask? Anything that you would want me to type out? Anyone? I'm audible, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Just maybe ask what.
So this is based on only the cases that's fed into it right now?
Yeah, cases, you can upload any documents. These can be replies, statement of claims, anything. It's
Okay.
basically based on your document set that you upload. Your answers are based on that document set. And as you can see, you can, so if there are, suppose, more documents where you lose track of, suppose you don't know where it is sourcing the answer from. So for that, we have also, as you can see, source citation, and they will exactly mention which paragraph or which particular part of and which particular document it is sourcing it from.
Yeah, hi,
So
this
if
is
I were
Vikas.
to, oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Vikas,
sorry,
yeah,
go
please
ahead.
go ahead. Oh, no,
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah, just a follow-up question. Can this be connected to some kind of open source model so that it can fetch certain information from other than the document which is uploaded here?
That is not what we are trying to do as far as I know, but Aarti, would you want to jump in here?
Yes, hi, Chitraki. So to address this question, so to give a background, this product has come about based on some of the requests that we are having real time with, in the case of in real world law cases that go to court or arbitrations or mediations, to give the lawyers some kind of assistance, right? We have had cases where there are like thousands of documents and it gets hard to quickly grab information. So this product has started off like that. So what you see here is, the result of that. So we are actually trying to limit it to this case. It's the we wanted to not go beyond what it's been provided, and that is actually the challenge. If you saw the first, question, it said it doesn't have. So we have actually trained, or we have actually told this, system to say that not give any extra information. Better if you don't know, just say don't know and don't give any other made up information or extra information or anything. So we don't want it to go beyond this. So it is a bit conservative actually.
Makes sense.
So,
Makes sense. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because
so
we
to
are
add,
dealing with the legal domain. Sorry, Chitraki, go ahead.
no, I'm so sorry to cut you short. Just please complete. I'll
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
Right. No, my point is that because we are in the legal domain and because we are being a kind of an assistant in this system, we want to be conservative and assist only based on what information it has been given. And I think most people here know that it's quite a challenge. So yeah, that's what we are trying to tackle now. And we're making progress day by day on this. It's constantly evolving. So that's where we are at. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks.
Just to add on to what Aarti said, so the idea is the first video that I showed, the first platform, document management system. So this second platform, DocChat, the generative AI platform, actually sits alongside the first platform. The idea is to assist lawyers in a particular case. Suppose an arbitration matter or any matter is going on. The idea is to help that particular team or a particular lawyer be more efficient with respect to that particular case. Hence, the idea sprouts out from that rather than making it an open source question answer generating thing, we wanted it to be on the basis of a set of documents because that's what a day-to-day work flow of a lawyer looks like, right? We go through so many documents, pages and pages of documents, and it's very time taking. So obviously with like mentioning this platform also, even if one uses this platform, I'm sure a lot of reading still has to be required but the idea is to just reduce that timing by half or as much as we can and increase the efficiency. Yeah. And that's what I think that is all. These are the two platforms that we wanted to showcase, and I would be open to feedback and questions. Yeah.
Chitraki, I have one question. So if, say, I feed it 10 judgments of like a motor accident claim, and if I ask it average, how much amount is given as compensation? Does it answer that sort of question?
So it would again depend. That's a very good question, actually. To answer that, it would all depend on again what these documents contain in terms of what is the claim. If there are parameters mentioned anywhere in the documents where motor vehicle claims amount varies from this to this or this particular thing, it would not calculate it for you, but it would definitely give you an idea based on whatever information, little bit information you have from those particular documents. It will just show you along with the source that this particular document says that this are the parameters. You can go ahead with this. Mm. Yeah, it would not calculate it or source any extra information other than what is there in the documents that you have uploaded.
Sorry, just to clarify, for maybe Saurabh might know this better. So there are instances of judgment that a model can pick up, right? Say this is the petitioner, this is the respondent, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
in that context, this was the value of the claim, for instance. Do you have that sort of command into it?
Yes, yes, we do. If the respondent or the petitioner mentioned some amount, then it would automatically pick up that amount and say that in this particular document, the petitioner had already mentioned that this is the claim amount that is required to be paid, or that is what the claim is. Then it would mention it automatically and pick up from that particular bit of the document.
Yeah, so I want to add on to that. So it does retrieve, and it also actually, if there are some statements that are related, it can actually pick all of those together and give it to you in the context, not just that one, so that it makes a complete sense. So anything involving numbers and surrounding it, so it might not actually calculate, but it might give you the background of what went on to that, right? Even including the time frames as well. So we have, yeah, it is capable of doing that.
Any other question, anybody?
I had a question. This is more, with regards to the first platform. In terms of your ideal customer base, what is the ideal customer base, and how do you price this? Like, what is the pricing model?
So, to answer the first part, the document management system, the target customer would be mostly, at the moment at least, lawyers, law firms, where we assist them to just manage documents better on a day-to-day basis, collaborate with the team better. And the second bit, I think that's a conversation we will have to take separately about the pricing. It depends. We would price it. So a lot of customization also happens along with based on the client. They require sometimes that we want to customize this. We want to make certain things more specific. Then the tech team customizes it accordingly, and the pricing changes here and there.
So basically, it's a B2B model where depending on the customer
Yes.
and the size
Yes.
of what is their usage, you decide what.
Yes, yes. Law firms and mostly arbitration cases, arbitration institutions, who would use this to manage their large scale arbitrations, large scale document management.
Yeah. No, connected to that is the bigger customer the more ideal customer, or is it the smaller one who is the more ideal customer, or is it sort of independent?
Both are. I think it will be much more useful for someone who is a bigger customer, as in more document heavy. If there's a particular arbitration case, obviously it's bound to be many documents, right? Hundreds and thousands of documents. So I think that way it will be much more helpful. But that doesn't mean that the small scale customer is not ideal, because again, when it comes to, I would like to highlight here OCR. So I have spent a lot of time during my time OCRing files, and it takes a lot of time when you do it through other platforms also. So what we here in our platform, we can OCR up to like hundreds of documents in a few minutes, which is something that is rare, which I haven't seen in other platforms. So things like that definitely help cases where documents are so many and they're heavy, and you need to hyperlink and paginate and collaborate with your team in terms of comments and OCR files on the go. And yeah, so it just becomes helpful as heavier it goes.
To add to that, so Chitraki is right in that it caters very well for the big volumes. But also there are certain features there which cater to smaller cases as well. I mean, we have addressed their requirements also. There are some things like indexing and bookmarking, which actually have been requested by the smaller cases where it suits their use case and their flow. So both have been considered. And yeah, like she rightly said, we do customize. So any of those can be chosen according to the need.
Yeah, Yeah, this is Vikas here. Just one question, and I've got this question from a lot of my customers whom I deal with, mostly in North Americas and Europe, is that a lot of times these contracts also have handwritten notes, which has a few comments. Uh, so I've got questions in the past to parse or get extract of those handwritten notes also while I'm doing a search. So is that a possibility? And if
Uh,
yes, then is it really accurate?
I'll
Hi,
take that.
Vikas. Yeah.
Yeah, Chitraki, since it's a technical, but you can add on as you.
No, actually, yeah. Aarti, you can take on. But Vikas, yeah,
Right.
thank you for the question. Aarti will just address this, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Arti.
Yeah. So the OCR part is definitely
Mhm.
catered for extracting any text, and we do have
Mhm.
support for other languages as well, like
Mhm.
any of the regional languages.
Mhm.
We have had handwritten notes that are OCR. But
Mhm.
again, it depends on a lot of factors like clarity, and when it is handwritten, we cannot really say how well. It depends, case to case. So there have been cases where it has OCR'd and the text has been extracted well, and there have been cases where it is not so well. So yeah, but OCR, I think I can fairly easily say that it's 90 to 95% of the time it is working well from the examples and the cases that we have had.
Great. Thanks.
Chitraki, you may add on. Sorry. You can
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would have mentioned OCR as well, but yeah, the accuracy we have received, like we have experienced accuracy. We do that. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything on the chat?
Okay, great. I'm sure we'll circle back to after the whole thing is done.
Yeah.
Saurabh, if you can just take us through your product. That is, I think you've just started, 3 months old is what you mentioned, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so thank you so much for first of all having me here. This is probably the first time I'm showing it to a wider audience. Otherwise, the only people who get to see this is me and myself. And I think so before I go, like everyone else, I would like to share my screen and show a presentation slide because that usually makes a lot of sense. If you can see my screen, you guys can, right? Cool. When we look at, and again, coming from my naivety of not being a lawyer and how really like the pain points really comes in the entire process, but like looking at it from an outsider, what it almost looks like is that there are three key things that almost every lawyer does. One is doing search, and this could be like and for a lot of like downstream tasks, this could be like the biggest bottleneck, right? So, for example, where a lot of advisory work is happening with respect to lawyers, or where or like drafting a memo, those kind of tasks really come in. Search becomes one of the biggest pain points because what a lawyer is expected to do is go and find all the relevant documents and then go through all of these documents to basically form an opinion and then convert that opinion into a template that we as an organization believe in, and then we send it to the clients, right? And similarly, with respect to analysis, a lot of legal analysis happens with respect to like cost. A lot of like legal analysis happens in the context where you don't deal with too much of quantitative data, or not a lot of quantitative data exists. But for some reason, whenever analysis sort of use cases comes in, like there's a pile of documents for sure, right? And usually the difference is that a junior lawyer is basically made to sit and go through all of these documents and then convert it into a fact sheet, right? And some of the downstream use cases for this could be due diligence, where you are looking at documents and creating a list of all the directors and their DIN numbers and things like that, right? And with respect to drafting, again, like a lot of you spoke about drafting use cases. For us also, we look at drafting and we actually want to solve for the document formatting issue, and we have made a lot of progress on that front as well. But like really, the idea is that if you were to change something into a document, or if you have a template prescribed by your organization, then changing the content shouldn't be as much of a pain as it is today, really. And all of this is towards just one thing, that we as an organization believe that there's a career that was sold to lawyers saying that you would go there and you would, change the world, but largely all the lawyers are drowning into data, right? Like, so how do we like really solve for that? And that's the thing. So couple of months back, like when we started building this thing, one of the first things that we built is actually a search engine. And this is called RegChat. This is the name that we have given it. And what we have done is like we have gone and scraped all the notifications, master circulars, press releases of RBI since 1991. So we have all of that data and we have indexed all of that data. And now what we are able to do is, rather than giving you something which is cited by another, source, we actually just rely on all the documents that has been released by RBI in public domain. And then we can answer any question which is related to notifications and things like that, right? So for example, usually in advisory work, you would have like, so for example, a foreign bank which is trying to set up a subsidiary in India, right? Like they would usually, or if a bank is undergoing a change of control, they would have to answer these questions, like whether RBI's written approval is required before, someone is appointed as an MD or not, right? And these questions may repeat, may not repeat, but because these are largely regulatory matters, no one wakes up every morning and says that today I'm gonna, I'm excited, I'm gonna do like RBI search and like look for the right notification which answers this question, right? So usually the knowledge is lost, the citations are lost in the organization, and that's why when you ask this question, and I'm not running this because it will take like a couple of seconds, as you have seen like in all the other demos. So really the delta really is how we are sort of processing, and when we are processing, we are almost processing like 40-50 notifications, where the information could be anywhere, right? So those who are aware about aware of like the limitations of large language model or generative AI models, right? Like there's usually a problem when you have like really large amount of text, because this could be lost in the middle and things like that. So we manage context very, very smartly, and then we also define how the response needs to be generated. And the good thing is, like, other than it giving you an answer, so for example, the answer to this question is that the appointment of managing director and a whole time director in bank does require approval of the RBI. So it will not give you a generic response. It will give you a very authoritative response. It's bounded by all the information that only RBI has released. While we could have added an API to do the web search, like our agent can be given a tool to query the web results and then answer this question. We limit it only to the RBI notifications. And what we have seen is that for lawyers, it's usually more important to get a starting point. If you can get me an answer, great. But if you can give me a starting point, that's usually where like I'm struggling. So in the worst case scenario, what this system does is it gives you a notification to start, or in the best case scenario, it will directly answer the question that you have. And if you look at the citation, what it'll do is it will take you directly to the cited notification and things like that from the RBI website itself. Now, this is one part, and now we are continuing to increase the number of regulators that we cover. So we have RBI, now we're moving to SEBI and things like that. But really the idea is like all the regulatory notification search or opinion writing or memorandum writing needs to happen through RegChat, right? Like, and we have really high quality of response. In terms of number of users, we have seen like a little bit of like product market fit, where infrequent but consistent usage from repeat users are coming in. So that's one insight for you. I'm not showing you all the features here because some of them are like in development. But then the other side of the story really is where legal teams are usually seen as like the cost center for a business. And that's why there's always like a squeezing of like, how less can we pay this department and how much more work can be generated. But if you flip it on the other side, legal department has a lot of like business insights. But these business insights are usually not like relayed back to the businesses, where a lot of like these. And so when we think about, that this contract is expiring on so and so date, and that's why we need to initiate a whole workflow to get it renewed and things like that. Usually these insights are missing. And while a lot of platforms who are catering just to contract, they do it, we do it slightly differently. What we do is we provide people a way to convert the data from existing documents into a structured manner. So for example, here I have like some of the sample master service agreements, and I can upload it onto this platform. what it will do is it will take all of these documents, it will extract text from it. And then finally, what it will do is it will fill up a table for me. I'm sorry, there's a beautiful bird outside my window, so just pardon that. But what is happening is it has extracted all the text. Now it is going document by document, just like how a lawyer would do it. And now it's filling up a table. And then finally, what I get is an insight on what all of this universe of documents really has, right? So where is it relevant? It's relevant for a lot of like in-house counsels in some sense, where there's a lot of historical documents. Legal department may not have adopted a contract lifecycle management tool, or maybe just doing it like plain vanilla Word document way in some sense. We are agnostic to it. You give us PDF. If you are doing contracting over PowerPoint one, you shouldn't be, but like in case you do that, like we would be able to handle that as well. But really the idea is that if you have a lot of documents, you want a meta level insight on all of those documents, the system is able to sort of like do that. So we'll just wait for a couple of seconds. It's almost there. And then we'll see what kind of insights we can get from this. So also from a product perspective, we believe like long running complex workflows and jobs are very, very relevant for legal use cases. And that's why while we do focus on like simpler user interfaces like chats, we are focused on long running jobs where a lot of like legal value can be derived. So if you, so 1,000 document processing is like more of like our game than like, providing a simple chat on internal policy and things like that. But yeah.
So Saurabh, on the notification aspect of it, how often do you update the data?
Oh, our notification is old now. We last updated it on 2nd of October, 2nd of October this year, and we haven't been able to update it since then. But we have all the scripts, and right now the product is in beta, so we are actually iterating on features rather than just updating the index, which is a slightly simpler, but we have like put it for the later part of the work. So our focus right now has been like, how do we get best search on these notifications? Also, the question really is like the amount of data that we are sitting in. We have like 7 gigabytes of just index data. Like these are like so these are like really large indexes that we are managing right now, and that's where most of our energy has been. But updating index shouldn't be that big a problem, but we haven't updated it since 2nd of October.
Okay, because our regulators come up with directions like at the drop of the hat. Every minute they'll notify something.
Yeah. So frequency for RBI release is almost like roughly like 2 notifications a week. So 2nd of October we released this, and after that I think like there's a PM Yojana which had come up, and I'm just gonna stop this and probably just going to upload a couple of documents so that it's easier to see this, because it's taking a little bit of time.
And one more input that sorry, is my voice echoing?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, one more input that I did have was, I know you're not focusing fully on the index now, but for some time later, they put in a lot of information in their FAQs. So both RBI and SEBI, that is actually not there in the directions at all.
Yeah.
And these are substantial changes that they bring about in FAQ.
Yeah, so we index all of those like notifications, master circulars, FAQs, press releases. Press releases was a bad idea because we have had like 50,000 since 1991, and usually that's not a lot of like information. But we do cover those parts. But really the question is, when you are advising a client on a very, very specific matter, sometimes that might not be. So for example, a lot of like FLDG or like fintech related regulations, they have like their clarifications here. But for more like standard matters, you are usually gonna go to a particular notification site that. So the spectrum of like very, very general search to very, very specific search, we need to cater to all of them. And that's what we have been able to make the system work with. So if you ask a very, very pointed question on a particular this thing, it will be able to answer this, which may or may not be covered in FAQ as well. Okay, so we uploaded some master service agreements, and what it is basically doing is it has extracted this information. It's effective from when, what are the initial terms, what are the renewal terms, invoice payable in days. So if you have like different payment terms, it will basically show up what kind of termination types are there, what are the service locations, contractor name, customer name, and things like that, right? You could also basically you could so you could get visualization on what are the initial terms that you have, like the variations among them and things like that. So we are continuing to refine analytics on this, but really the idea is how can we make sure that once you have all of this data, you're not getting inside the documents, but you are able to operate from top of it. So these are the two things that I want to show right now, and more releases when we do, we'll update the public about it. If there are any questions, happy to answer. I'm just stopping my screen share.
Suhas, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Saurabh, my question was, how are you doing the QC on this?
On what?
On the results that you're getting?
For the reg chat or for the contract analyzer?
For the chat?
We have lawyers who are using it. And a bunch of historical advisory matters, you can already ask questions because you have already advised your client, so you have done some research, and that's the baseline that you compare it against. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Hi, Saurabh. I had a question
Yeah.
regarding this, the RBI notifications. So what is the actual source of data? I mean, you have all of these notifications going back many years. Is it only notifications or you have other sources as well?
So
like the big base.
Yeah, we have downloaded all the RBI notifications, master circulars, press releases, FAQs since 1991. So we have all of that data sitting on our server as indexes, and then we are querying that. The other route would be to basically give our agents ability to query the web and then do from that. But what we have seen is that sometimes it could confuse the agent, and then you would have like sources like Times of India, which is not what you want. You want it from RBI, and that's why limiting it at the index level both allows us. Also, the other more practical problem really is that sometimes RBI does take away the document from the website, right? In which case you won't be able to find it in the first place, right? To give you an answer, like go online and try to find out the form that is to be filled and sent to RBI when a MD is appointed by the bank. You will not find it, but we have it in our index because we have been able to sort of like keep it, in our database. So to answer your question, Aarti, it's limited to our index. Our index is all RBI notifications, master circulars, FAQ, press releases since 1991. And that's the data that we have on which this agent basically queries. We usually get, we actually have we retrieve much larger amount of documents, like precise extraction. We do like much larger amount of extraction of documents. And then we iteratively go through all of that content. This is something called like chain of density. So we are iteratively updating our responses as new information from all the notifications keeps coming in, which both allows us to have like absolutely no hallucination in some sense, and also allows us to sort of cover like a much wider amount of information than you would be able to do otherwise. Now you have like 128K, 200K context lengths, but the good thing is like our system is flexible. So if you have like a 4K model, our systems are like fairly LLM agnostic. If you have a 4K model or a 8K model, like it'll still work because we chunk the documents a certain way and then we iteratively sort of generate the response. Does that answer your question, Aarti?
Yeah, thanks. And also the analyzer that you showed, the format of that, is it a standard or it varies on the type of based on the type of the document and the context of the document?
Could you repeat your question and just break it down a little bit for me? Because, ignore my naivety on the subject.
Yeah, no problem. So I was just curious, this the analyzers that you showed, where it showed the summary and some numbers going on there, the format of that, is it dependent on the type of the document, or is there a standard set of information that you always show?
Right now, there's a standard set of information that we show. So we have realized that these are usually the questions that people really want a response for. These are the things that really matters for a business. But what we are working on is like absolutely dynamically generated interface, like almost like a polymorphic interface where you would be able to say that these are the questions that I need an answer for. And then it will generate a table basis your questions. And then your visualization will be basis the table that has been generated. And so it will be very dynamic, but to answer your question, right now what you're seeing, it has a very standard format in terms of what table structure is like, what information needs to be extracted, and then the visualization is corresponding to it. One thing that I did not show you guys is that you can click on this button and you can just download all of this as an Excel sheet, which basically means that if you have to paste it onto a slide to send to your boss, you can do that. Yeah, so that's how it works.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Yeah, this was really useful, Saurabh, for a person who keeps saying he's not a lawyer. I think you've got a lot of what work lawyers do, right? I just have one question on the RBI circular, SEBI circular, that bit. If we know that they do keep, okay, there's a master circular, and then they might have a notification or they might have a press release which amends it. So the model say my question is, my client is a company who wants to make an overseas investment, but he also has and that overseas company also has a subsidiary in India. So what are the provisions for me? So if it has to pull from multiple sources, give the most updated information, how does that work?
So this system will be valid for that. Essentially what you're asking is you're giving me a lot more information and now I need to find out a lot more notifications, right? So the system that is, these kind of systems are called retrieval augmented generation, where you have index of one document. So either you have 1 or 100, in our case, like more than 2 lakh documents in some sense, right? Like which we have indexed. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to semantically find what are the documents which will be useful. Now, sometimes it can happen that you say subsidiary, but the notification doesn't say subsidiary, but like says like a parent company or something of that sort, right? Like has like a slightly different semantic meaning. So in terms of semantic search, it will be slightly more, it might not come if you keep your cutoff to say, if it is only 95% similar, only then tell me that, right? So what we do is we take all the notifications, I'm forgetting the range, but maybe like till 70% similarity or 60% similarity, right? 50% would be like absolutely random guess. So we would take like 70-75% similarity, which basically means that at the end of the day, you're retrieving more than say like 50 or 70 notifications. Now the hope is that in 50-70 notifications, which has like similarity, contextual similarity, 70% approximately, which basically means a lot of non-contextually relevant documents will also be pulled in. But contextually relevant documents will certainly be pulled in, right? So then you basically make this array of really large number of documents. It will be like 50-60 documents almost, right? Like notifications, individual notifications that you have. And then what you do is you basically arrange it in the order of like, either basis the dates, because sometimes like precedent can come in, or similarity because you want something more contextually relevant. But essentially you have an array of documents. Then you go document by document by document by document by document and update the answer. So if you ask a question that I have a client who has a subsidiary who wants to open a bank in India or something of that sort, you have given enough number of like both keywords as well as like context information to find out, even if it's very weak, because we do like a very vast amount of search, we have at least seen like in most of the cases, that document may not rank in top 10 documents, but it is certainly in like top 20, 30 documents. And then we leave it to an LLM with our custom instructions and the way we generate response iteratively to basically take that information and update the response. So after every turn, it's basically updating a response. And that's how basically the system works. I don't know if I answered your question, but in summary, we extract a lot more information than contextually relevant, and then we iterate over it to generate a response, hoping that it will be exhaustive enough. And in most of the cases where we have seen this work, it actually works like that.
Got it.
Any safety related questions, data security, privacy?
Sorry.
Somebody's on. Yeah, please go ahead.
I actually had a question on the source. So I assume that you have some kind of automation to actually scrape the notifications as and when they come in, or is it, I'm thinking that it's not a manual thing. I mean, it is automated. So then the aspect of quality control comes as at the source level. So do you have anything in place for that, or is it something done manually to see what is relevant, not relevant?
No, so we scrape whatever RBI basically sends to public, right? Like we believe that at some day, like a lawyer is gonna lose their job if they don't find this particular notification. So we get everything that RBI basically puts in. RBI is also one of the better search engines because it's very interesting. But RBI puts in, and let me actually show it to you. That's gonna be like the fun part. But if you go to RBI website, let me just quickly show it to you. If you go to RBI website, for each notification, they will give you an HTML page, which is much easier to sort of like scrape and computationally much cheaper to sort of like extract information. And then they give you a PDF for the same thing, right? So in these kind of cases, what we do is we download both PDF and notification, because what we have seen in certain cases, RBI would just cite a PDF into the notification, and that PDF is URL is slightly different. It's rbidocs.in or something of that sort. So what we do is we scrape everything, and because this has a standard format, what we have created is a template for scraping, and that basically extracts information which is within these boundaries of like what you're seeing, right? So the quality control, what you're talking about, Aarti, in terms of text extraction, we already have like a set template to scrape like HTML pages from which we get like really high quality text. And for PDF, where we have no alternative, only then we extract text from that. So that reduces the number of like text related errors that we could like possibly face. That's on the source side of things. The other side of thing is really that when the response is generated, we know that these are stochastic parrot and it may have like a lot more issue. What we do is we redirect you to the notification directly. In the sense, like we will give you a summary, but we will also direct you to a particular notification which has this particular piece of information so that you can go through that. So these are the two mechanisms in which like we are controlling or hedging our risks in some sense for the quality control. But really RBI has like, taken a lot of stuff to, off of the plate, because it already gives you an HTML to scrape from. And that's how like we have been able to sort of like make our system work.
So this website is the primary source of information, right? I mean, that's how
RBI website is the primary. So any regulator's website is the only source of information that we are going with.
Okay. So the news articles and all are just like a supplementary thing. I mean, because those are the ones that probably have, speculative information or.
No, RBI is a fun place. Like if you go to press releases, you will find all the press releases. And if you go to archives, you will also find till 1991, 1990, right? So these are press releases where it will basically state that, these are the auctions that happened, or these are the bank related meta information, or, why credit is a problem for India, article on that, right? It'll have a lot of information, a meta information, a gyan information in some sense, which is usually like great for law students to read, because that's when you understand like why a regulator has this particular stance on a country's economy and things like that. But for practicing lawyers who are either working in a law firm or like doing independent advisory, they're usually looking for like a very, very, very specific piece of information. So press releases is usually something that we don't really go after when people are searching for it, unless and until you explicitly specify to the agent that go and check if there's something in the press releases, which is usually not the case, which a lot of like practicing lawyers are like looking for. So that's how it works. So even when we are saying news and everything, news would ideally follow when RBI has released something in the notification, and that's why notification is the only single a regulator's website is the only source that we rely on.
Yeah, got it. Thanks, Saurabh.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, sorry. I just have last question for everybody to wrap up before we wrap up. Yeah. So this is like Hans, Suhas, Saurabh, anybody. Two things. One is from a regulatory, legal risk point of view, or what are the things you think you have faced, which the current legal framework is not letting you do when you are trying out these things. That if you can just touch upon those sort of challenges, maybe, if there are any, and secondly, from a market business point of view, if you are facing any pain points, not able to get lawyers to onboard because they are too stuck in their own ways, any such problems that you're facing?
I think, yeah, I would want to answer this, but I don't know if my problem would fall in any of the two categories. But I still feel it's a major thing that my entire team faces. So, law is very vast, right? There are so many intricacies, very like minute details, and it also requires 99%, 99.9% accuracy, right? In terms of building a platform where we are generating answers, where we are trying to just help lawyers by generating answers basis on document sets or even from like an open source. For that, we need data sets that we are constantly trying to feed the system. So that's where we sort of face issues in the sense that uh, generating those questions and those set of answers and then the accurate data, that is something that I feel is really time consuming. And once done, when it's done once, I think it will just pay off with time when you have that amount of data. If it makes sense, I guess, then. But I think the process of just coming up with accurate data in terms of law, the accuracy, that's something that I think is going to be a challenge. Can get over it, but it's a little time consuming. I don't know. Anyone can add on to that if they feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, from the tech perspective, to add on to that, by accuracy, it also defines on how the data is made available to us, right? So we are here to actually, help with the system. What we get is, I think we need a change in the legal domain with more regularizing, the documents, the structuring. Most of the documents that we get, they could be, scanned copies of handwritten or not, following a certain format. Some of them are available as, PDFs or docs, but they could be corrupted. From the tech perspective, we would, we would ideally want a system where, we have a good structure from which we could extract the information out of, which is missing. But I think it will, we are getting there slowly. In a large country like India, it does take time, and the domain also needs to be more aware that sticking to a good structure will help us to deliver the technology that can aid the domain, the legal domain. So yeah, that is one of the issues where definitely we can see improvement. We must see improvement going forward.
If I may add on top of that, I think it depends on by country and by continent. And there are, some movements like Atticus Project or SALI, SALI, where, big companies have given huge data sets to, to the public and to open source kind of initiatives. So yeah, there are a lot of initiatives and movements to support also what I think Arti was saying in Traki. But yeah, of course, there is regulation-wise, I think there is not like a specific regulation who is blocking what we do, but there are a lot of regulations who are helping make sure that we do things properly and we do it in a ethical way as well. So that makes sense. And also to your question about difficulties in use cases for lawyers, and I think we're not talking about replacing lawyers, but we're talking about augmenting legal professionals, and that's should be the way of having a software that double checks the results of humans and vice versa.
Yeah, just to add to all these points, I think at least, and especially in the Indian context, I think the challenge will be to, find, as we grow, we will have a challenge in finding the kind of talent we have on this call. So, technologists who understand legal problems, lawyers who understand technology is still a very small talent pool. And I think growth will largely depend on this talent pool increasing. And it's not very easy because finding experienced lawyers to understand tech mid-career is not easy. Finding technologists who are, betting on the law, say like, Saurabh, there are not so many of them. So that's going to be a challenge as we grow. Today we are small teams, but as we grow, it will be a challenge.
I mean, from one thing that I said, right, regulators sometimes redact documents and no one knows. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And some regulators are definitely much better. So one of the most common challenges that I have seen, and probably like this is a global challenge in some sense, that, when you have a updation on a particular law, then the legislative or the executive branch basically does like one line change. And there is no one who is basically updating the entire document and putting it out, right? And while generative AI can be used very well, this space can get like hugely cannibalized by like private publishers and even companies like, who are betting really heavily on AI and generative AI. But what that might have is like a very adverse impact in terms of like public discourse, because it's a sad thing, but like today we buy our laws from private publishers, right? Like, so in some sense, like we have to streamline and archive legislative as well as like judicial documents very, very well for it to be useful. Because the other side of the story would be that the entire world would have moved to generative AI and the courts would still be functioning a certain way. So you don't want that kind of a disparity. And because primarily what happens is that then you start seeing like the quality difference between the tech that is used for public systems and the tech that is used by the private systems, right? Like to bring that parity, I think the first homework that we'll have to do as a world, probably in some sense, because this is not an India jurisdiction specific problem, but happens across the globe, is we have to standardize our like legal data in some sense.
Right. Okay, this was great. Thank you so much, everybody. Abhivardhan, you want to mention any concluding